I'll call this meeting to order. It is Wednesday, April 16th, 2028. It is 11 o'clock. 2025, I'm sorry. It's 11 o'clock, and we are here to meet with the BLM on updates. And I'll turn it over to Kurt Pindell.
It's great to be back.
Yep, I appreciate it.
It's been a while, yeah. It's been a year. Really appreciate my time that I get to spend with you folks. And This is just a way, again, of how we open up these dialogues, to have these discussions, right? So, again, cards are here, that sort of thing. If you guys ever have questions, anybody, even if it's not us, I'm still sure I can find you the right spot.
Okay.
And I know some folks have called me, and it's great. I love the phone calls, right? Love to keep it at our level, that sort of thing. So here's a few updates that are going on this year. As you can tell, there's been some change in federal management. So, so I'm not going to get into specifics about personnel. I'm not supposed to specifically, but I just want to tell folks where we're at. So essentially, our probationary folks that were within the first year of service, they were let go, and then some of them were brought back. Some of them chose not to come back, that sort of thing. The next thing that happened was that, quote, fork in the road, if folks remember that. That was the deferred resignation program, and we had some folks take it in the first round, and now the second round has come through, and more folks have taken it. So it's left us at a point where it'll be difficult to keep functioning, but we'll find a way. You know, you might call, and you might need to talk to somebody in administration, and that might be my law enforcement guy. Because we're going to have to fill in for other things. So I would ask that you kind of understanding that it might take a little bit. Okay. The good news is, though, still some of the one of our strong programs, recreation, timber, minerals, are all solid right now. We didn't lose that piece. So that's great to know that I think we'll still be able to be moving forward with that. So that's good to know. Ray's going to get into some of what's active timber sales we have going on, that sort of thing. I think we've heard about some of the executive orders about minerals in America, that sort of thing, and the timber executive order. So the good news is there from a larger perspective, from the Bureau's perspective. They're asking that we produce 20 to 25% more, and we're already at over that. Okay. Bureau-wide. So our Bureau target is something like 850 million board feet, and we're at literally 1 million board feet. So we're already producing more. So we're ahead. That's great. Issues being that this is great for 2 years because we've got this stock built up, but I don't know what year 3 and 4 look like because if I'm short of people, I'm not going to be able to keep rolling with that. That's going to be hard to get through all our NEPA, that sort of thing. So my hope is that there's a plan a little bit ahead that I can rehire some positions, some of those key positions, and then we can start moving forward with this. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay.
No, so you guys, you're under the same, you know, the NEPA process it takes a long time, and it's
but what I would tell you is that the Forest Service gets all the slings and arrows, and nobody really pays attention to us. So it's really nice that way. We just happen to not have large sales, that sort of thing. So we're very efficient with ours. We have not been litigated on any of ours, and we've been. Our issue lately has been, and I'm sorry, Ray, I might be stealing your thunder, but is the price of lumber as a whole has gone down so much that we're having issues just getting it out the door. So we have to keep adjusting our what we think will pull in for recovery for the American people, that sort of thing. So that hurts, but at the same time, we're still committed to trying to get that timber out the door and trying to keep the mills full, that sort of thing.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, we do our best, and that's an attribute to Ray and his staff. And down in Cottonwood, we have another great staff that's doing a lot of that good work. So it works for us right now. I'm very hopeful that we can not have any major impacts in a little bit here because we've gone through these stages. We keep hearing about building consolidation and then reductions in forces, but we don't know what that looks like just yet. Okay. So hopefully we're able to keep enough of it intact that we're able to get our NEPA done and keep those programs moving forward. Okay. With that, the mineral side of things, we're getting some activity, but The minerals part is more of the small stuff right now, like the mom hop type of thing, like, hey, we want to set a claim here or there, that sort of thing. So we're getting more activity, but not a ton just yet. In talking to my mining engineer, what he's hearing and what he sees is it's just not, they haven't got to a point where the product that they would be able to would recoup their costs per se, right? It has to hit a certain point. And then the other technical piece that has to happen after that is it has to sustain itself. And currently the markets, we all watch the stock market, and it's changing at such a rapid pace that it's just deterring folks to making any sort of larger investment, that sort of thing. So that's kind of holding that back. He doesn't know how long that keeps, or if we keep hearing about more, or within this executive order, there are some things that we're going to have to do to try to make things easier for folks to try to get this if they have claims, that sort of thing. If that happens, it could change how we do NEPA, that sort of thing, and it could shorten up some of those processes, which if it does, maybe people will be more interested, that sort of thing. But we don't know that. I mean, it's kind of a gamble at this point. We'll have to see what that executive order, how that moves forward. Okay. Those are the two big things that I wanted to chat about. The only other one I still want to bring up, and we chatted about a little bit last year, is the Land and Water Conservation Fund. So that's one where if you know about, or you hear about some properties that, look, you got a bunch of yellow BLM land around, and somebody wants to sell a big chunk in the middle of that, maybe you guys would be a good purchaser. So we love to work with folks to try to do that. So we're looking for a couple things here. Blocking up yellow, so it makes it easier for folks so you don't have to find a way to jump a corner or find a way around to get to that other BLM land, access to BLM land. Two, if we could find something that people like to recreate, like a river access or lake access or something along that line, because that would be fantastic. I mean, that's just opening up America's lands to the public, right? And I'm sure your county constituents would love that too, especially if it's local here too. And then the last one is any of those combination of providing other access. I mean, a lot of times we'll work with right-of-ways, that sort of thing. So if you know somebody that says, look, I know that this might be landlocked, and what I mean by landlocked is there might be private all around it. So there's no way to get to that land. If you hear about a way that we could possibly buy access to try to get people so that they can have access to that, that's something we'd also work with too. So we do have quite a bit of money. We get quite a bit of money in land and water conservation in the state. And the way this process works is if we hear about something like that and it becomes a priority project, I would simply propose it to the state. I can get approval, and then it takes us a quick 2 years to get that process finished. I'm sorry, but that's true. But then, from then on, everybody has access. So that's a wonderful thing for folks. We have a few that we're working on right now. None of them in this county. No, not in this county right now. But and I just throw that out there. If anybody hears of something and they might think we might be interested, let us know, and we'll certainly do our due diligence to see if it pans out, if it makes sense for everybody, the American public, that sort of thing. So
they do need to be bordering.
It doesn't. So here's a strange one I'll give you. Is we're negotiating with someone right now. They live next to a river, and the parents have died. The siblings do not want the place, and they're like, well, we want to sell this off, but we'd love to provide access along this side. So if you put something, and this is not here, but if you put something on both sides so that we know that they won't come into our yard, that sort of thing, we'll provide access to the river, which would be great. I mean, that's just another way for the American public. And then the next thing that comes in is where are they going to park? So we got to figure all those out. So those are all the challenges that go with it. But it's certainly something that we'd be interested in. But that one doesn't touch any other yellow. It just gives people something to recreate.
Do you guys have a map of all? I'm sure you got a map of all your land here.
Yes. That we could, and at the end of today, I will send you that map.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's all I had. Any questions for me?
Not yet.
Okay. I'm going to hand it off to Ray. Ray's the field manager here, and he's going to have more in-depth and specific numbers.
Yeah, I can go. Ray Pease, field manager in Coeur d'Alene.
just give an update on some of the stuff that would be probably of interest to you. Is like some of our timber sales that are happening in Shoshone County, ongoing. I can give you active, where we think we're going next, and what we're going to do this year, and then also updates on some of the recreation stuff that we're working on. So, recreation that affects here probably more than anything. We had that map correction that we started for our motorized access that we were going through from the 2007 travel management plan. Then there was a 2008 map, and so we'd entered into. I was like, we need to just again get one map. It's taken longer than we thought because we got into it, and our GIS layers were a little bit messed up and not linked up. And then we started looking at rights of ways and easements, and based on what the map showed versus what we actually had. And so we went through an exercise on that, just showing, where can we show that there's, access across, or we'd have an exclusive right for the public to go through state or private, and then what areas where it was just an administrative access for us. So we've been cleaning that up. We're hoping to get it out this earlier this spring, but then we went through public scoping, got some scoping and comments on it, and identified some areas where we need to ground truth. And I don't know if the GIS layer is off, but it just seems like that trail, and no one could recognize, if there's a trail there or not. And so this winter we're like, okay, before we go final, then we need to this summer get out and ground truth these. I think there's 4 or 5, and so our staff's going to get out on the ground and take a look at those before we go final with it. And it's just an updated map. So, but that's that travel management we've been trying to do, and it's just for the Pine Creek Rocher Divide SRM Special Recreation Management Area is what we're kind of tackling right now. That's where we've been having most of the issues. And then we also have out there a Westport Pine Creek, the structures, aka roller coaster. Took that on as far as went through public process. Did going through NEPA with an environmental assessment, because that allows for public input and scoping. And so right now we're working through that. We've got alternative developed. The staff has been doing their impact analysis of the different alternatives, and then the end of this month is we're hoping to send it back out, and Jan is for more public. Okay, here's where we're at with our NEPA. Here's alternatives. Here's our impact analysis, and then go back out one more time for the public to take a look at, where we're at there before we go to a final decision. So that's where that is at for those two. We also had last year we went through a business plan updates for all our recreation sites, because they hadn't been updated since 2012, and a lot of our just expenses have doubled or tripled as far as what it takes to maintain, like a Huckleberry campground if you've been over there, and then the projects is going in there and to upgrade the electrical system, the potable water. We're doing a slurry, chip seal slurry, hopefully this fall at Huckleberry. We're waiting till after Labor Day and trying to get through the busy season, and then working with contractors to come in there and resurface that area. I think that's the only one that's in Shoshone County is a big one. But yes, we upgraded those. They went into effect. We went through the Resource Advisory Council and got their input last year, public scoping, and now we're implementing in April. We have some people that weren't surprised, and then some people that just realized, what did you raise your prices? We started that last year, and so we're going through some of that too. Is just going back and explaining to people this is why we did what we did. You go through a market research, and so you look at what's happening on other state, county, federal, private, as far as what the cost to maintain some of these sites, and a lot of them are just there's standard amenities for a lot of our recreation sites, and there's expanded. And where the fees come in is to deal mostly with a lot of the expanded amenities that are just more to maintain, and they cost more to keep those up and going. And so we went through that exercise implementing this season. So you may hear something about that.
Now the expanded, can you explain what the expanded expanded means?
Yeah, the expanded amenities would be like, you're offering potable water, electricity, anything with a boat launch, boat ramp would be considered an expanded amenity. And then, and Kirk could probably answer this. He did some.
Yeah, so I did the last update.
Yeah.
I've been here that long. So essentially, standard amenities are basically four. And what I mean by standard is they're very standard. Like you might have a dirt parking lot, you might have a vault toilet, and you might have a kiosk there, and then it's at a trailhead. So it's very basic, right? But there are costs to recover, right? So that's the basic piece. Expanded, like Ray was explaining, it has to be 6 or more, and then one of them or two of them have to have like electricity or paved parking lot, stuff that's like a serious investment in it for the American people, right? There's two things I think are extremely important to remember about this, and I would ask you to always tell folks this: when we're collecting money for that site, it goes back to that site. I don't keep that money.
Exactly.
Right? Dennis tries, but I just don't let him. Right? So no, those monies go back in that site. So I mean, we expanded the amenities we gave the folks because that's what we thought the American public wanted, and then we used that money to come back in and improve that and maintain that site. But the reason we're doing this is, as you probably know, costs are crazy right now. Trying to get any contracts out and get contracts. So when they wrote the first Blackwell Island business plan, we estimated that the cost of resurfacing every 5 years, the parking lot, that sort of thing, so getting it chip sealed or actually fully resurfaced, was probably about $58,000.
Yeah.
Our last cost, it's about $260,000.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, that's 2002 now, right? Things have changed, but
Yeah.
and that's everything. That's the pavement, that's the ceiling, that's the restriping. There's all of that goes on. So it's very expensive. And then the problem we run into is, hey, I need to close this for a few days.
Yeah.
People are not happy.
I know, and you got to close it
I
to
gotta
do
do
that
it.
in good weather because it's got to
Exactly.
clear it.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah, they're not happy.
I tried to do it over the snow, and it just doesn't
Yeah,
work.
don't work. Yeah.
Not as well. So, that's kind of the difference between the expanded amenities and basic amenities. So, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's what we're trying to, and we're not. And the other thing that I think is really important, Charlie, this is my second point, is we have 6 sites that are either standard or basic or expanded amenities, right? So, but we have another 6 sites that meet all the requirements, and we're not charging anybody for that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a bargain for the American public as far as that goes. And some of them are on the lake, that sort of thing. So we're trying to bring that value to the public. And I hope they see that. They don't always see it because they just see I'm paying $12. Yeah. For this one, that one you're paying nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So I hope folks get that. They don't always see it. And it's unfortunate. But
Yeah, it is a big cost. I know that. And I know everything's going up. It's just,
But it's also like doing the market research. We have people too. It's like you guys, your fees. We've had people that called in and were like, "What the heck? Your fees went way up." I mean, man, it was like ridiculously cheap before, and it was awesome. But we didn't expect it to go up. And I'm like, well, again, market research, because you also have other people saying, "Hey, you guys need to be ratcheting your prices because, again, you're almost undervaluing everyone else."
yes.
yeah.
And whatnot. So we kind of like, okay, we have a responsibility to take a hard look at it, and so we went through our process and readjusted. So it's, we've been dealing with some calls.
And we had some different approaches. I mean, it's been 13 years since we did the last one, right? So could we do it more often? Yeah, we could. And then it would just be a little bump. We could do it that way, but I mean, just how do you want to do it, right? Do you want to just do the little ones every 2-3 years, or do you want to do the big one every 10 years? And there are pros and cons to each. And we just decided to go a longer route because it is fairly intensive work on our part to try to get all this estimates. And then we have to go through a board, and then we have to go through our state leadership, and then it has to be approved all the way up to our headquarters. So with all that in mind, I mean, how much time do you want to spend doing little bumps or big bumps? And then, I also look at it as it's a value to the American public if we go 10 years, because at years 5 to 10, it's a bargain.
Yeah, it is.
And that's good.
And then, if you do go up in little bumps, you risk that inflation is increasing every year, and you're not going to ever catch up.
Yep.
So you got to really.
Yes.
Well, and then we also, things that people don't think about is like the signage.
Yeah.
we had to go through and buy all new signage
Yep.
to go out there. And so, again, trying to be mindful of how often do you do it. We ran into, I've been here 4 years. We got here, when I first got here, we were talking about we got to get that business plan probably upgraded. But then we went from 2 people to 3 people to 2 people to 4 people to 3. You know, I'm like, we don't have capacity. We're just trying to keep the wheels on the bus going and trying to meet, you know, and deal with the maintenance of the sites. And then in the last couple of years, I've been able to get staffed up where we were able to carve out. This last year had enough outdoor rec planners, additional outdoor rec planners that could take on that project. So we were able to kind of, get that moved and done. So that was a big project for us. Timber sales, I can go over our timber sales right now. We've had a couple active ones. Pine Solo up in the West Fork Pine Creek. We had one that's just finishing up. It was a 3-year contract, and it's just finishing up in November. And it was, I think, estimated to be about $6.5 million when it was cruised, and ended up, we do a prescription base, and it ended up being, I think, it's closer to $7.1 million right now. So we're getting overage on that one. And then we sold one this spring, high and dry. It's up the East Fork Pine Creek. And it was one that we had out there, and we had to scale it back and rebid it 3 times because we just, with the wood market and, for folks to mow in, there just wasn't high interest. And so we had to go through, a process and look at, what the value and how much is it going to cost to do the roads. Let's take another look at that. And we finally got it to where we got a successful bidder, and they started working in there this winter.
Yeah.
So, and that's on a 4-year contract to give people some room, but I think they're going to probably be done in 2.
And where's that one located?
It's up in East Fork Pine Creek.
Is it Denver?
It's up Highland Creek.
Highland Creek.
It's up
right.
Highland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that one, numbers here, about 4.5 million board feet. Is 660 acres getting treated. Pine Solo, that one up West Fork Pine Creek, it's one of 3 sales in Pine Creek. It's 625 acres that is getting treated there. And then we picked up a small little sale up by Murray called Banjo Joe, and it's like a little 21 acre sale. It's a small piece of isolated property, and went in there, got a call from an individual that was interested. We had our staff look at it, and it's like, yeah, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it now. And it's not big enough for someone to mow in. And so we went through a process there, a different process. Like in NEPA, we have a categorical exclusion. If it's under a certain number of acres and road building, you can do a categorical exclusion, and it's a quicker process versus going an environmental assessment and whatnot. So that we were able to do a CX, and it's 20 acres, about 302,000 board feet on that. And it kicked off this spring as well. And so trying to just, pick that up, and just keeping in mind a lot of our sales are more restoration, habitat management, trying to take a lot of our areas and turn it back to a more fire resilient landscape where we have a lot of fir that's got root rot, mistletoe, maybe some bug issues, trying to get it back to, if it wants to be more of a cedar, or like up in the Pine Creek area, larch and ponderosa pine, and we go in their prescription to hold on as much as that as we can. And then also the fir, if it's healthy and good, we'll keep it. But I mean, that's what we're looking at, prescriptions to kind of get back to a climax community in this area and whatnot. So what we have coming up is there's a little sale called Gentle Annie. It's at Gentle Annie Creek up by Mullen, and it's about a 100-acre sale. And it's been done. I got it done last year, about 450,000 board feet. It was done last year, but with the market and the mow-in and stuff for folks, we're like, I don't think we're going to get much interest. And so we just kind of held on to it and hoping to put it out to contract this year. We're waiting for the market to kind of bounce back a little bit. And I think it's got some really good wood in it that maybe some of the smaller, mills and folks might be interested in it. But that one we have on the docket. And then West Fork Pine Creek, there's another, like I said, there's a series of 3 up that drainage. And we're working up right now. The foresters are bounding it and looking at it to to also put it out to contract by the end of this fiscal year. And so before September of this year, we'll hopefully get that one out. And that one is about 6 million board feet, 378 acres that we're hoping to get out there. And then we're already planning for our next NEPA, our big project as far as planning this year so we can give it to our interdisciplinary team, the staff to go out, botanist, wildlife, cultural. Here's our polygons where we want to go next, and that's going to be a Big Creek outside of Kellogg there, and then also Hunter Trapper back up in the East Fork, West Fork. And so we've got two foresters are working on 2 sales there to try to put together our management areas and then get that to staff so they can start this summer getting out and getting the boots on the ground and looking at it, and then hopefully start our EAs for those this fall, initiate those. So that's where we're kind of at, like in this area, and most of them are going to be in Shoshone County. So right now that's where the focus is. Okay.
My name is, you can ask him questions after. I don't have a whole lot to say like these guys, but I just wanted to introduce myself again, Dennis Brandt. I was the ranger down in Cottonwood for almost 8 years. I was a game warden before that down in Riggins. And I got the supervisory job recently. I'm still learning a lot about this whole roller coaster Pine Creek business. But no, I supervise Greg Muth up here, and a guy named Jason Brainerd. I just hired to backfill him in my old position, and he's down in Cottonwood. I was up here a few weeks ago visiting with the sheriff's office staff about our county contract that we have with Shoshone County to help out with dispatch services and looking into calls for service if Greg's unavailable. Assists and different things. It's a little way that we can help give back when you guys are helping us, which is huge for us, and we really appreciate your help. Just going over the little clerical detail issues to make sure that everything is going well with that contract and it's being administered correctly, and we won't have any problems with payment or anything like that. And that meeting went really well. Greg seems like he stays pretty busy over here. He focuses primarily on safety for the recreators that are out here, OHV stuff, and timber theft. It seems like that's kind of a big thing that's out here. A lot of people going up and stealing. Yeah. So he stays pretty busy with that. He works closely with the county and with Forest Service officers here, and they're trying their best to get a handle of that. And we really appreciate your help with the sheriff's office, working with him. He just worked with him the other day on something, so it's great. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you guys need anything, just let us know.
Follow up on the.
You guys have been great. Thank
It's
you.
like, firewood, but a lot of it we're finding is they're cutting greenwood
Yes.
Yeah.
stuff, and we're like,
When they're leaving it, well, they'll cut it and leave it until it dries up, and
they're taking it out.
they're taking it out.
Yeah, they seem to just take it, even though I wouldn't want to cut down greenwood. That's awful heavy, but they seem to just take it. And either people who are buying it don't know any better, or they just have it cure somewhere and they're waiting.
Yep.
But yeah,
Okay.
they'll just cut a nice tamarack and just take it right now. It's green.
Well, we were hearing with the roads department that they were falling some up on the
Dobson.
Dobson in the middle of the night, like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Up there getting wood.
That's when I get my wood.
Yeah. It'd be nice and cool, that's for sure.
We just as an example of how big of a problem this can be. I helped with a case down in McCall, and this they usually cut at night. Illegal drug use is usually involved with this to keep them up all night. And this one guy admitted to cutting 300 cords himself in 1 year.
Oh, wow.
And so you spread that out among how many ever people are doing this, it can be a huge hit on the forests around here. And so, again, really appreciate your help with the sheriff's office helping us out with that. We're trying to work that as aggressively as possible.
When they probably usually go after red fir and tamarack, so that
The good stuff.
Yep.
Yep.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And some of it's in areas, like I say, we're dealing with right now. It's like, do you guys have a plan? And like, we do.
Yeah.
We're hoping to go in there. Or it's, people, the operators are up there and say, hey, we're kind of concerned about people coming up and getting into our decks.
Oh, okay.
and whatnot. And so we deal with a whole gambit.
Well, the thing that really bothers me and it bothers the public a lot is, you have average law-abiding everyday citizens here that want to go up and need to go up and go get firewood, and these people are going up and taking massive amounts
And selling it.
and selling it. You take 300 cords and multiply it by a couple $100. That's no chump change.
Yeah.
And so it takes away from the public's ability to be able to go use the resource that we want them to be able to go use. That's their public land. So they have the right to go up there and go cut wood legally, and it is awful that you have people like that that's going up there and taking that from them, making it hard for them. They have to go farther and farther to go get easy to get firewood. So, yeah.
One last thing I did want to bring up, fire, how we operate in fire with the Bureau here in North Idaho is we basically have a service first agreement with the Forest Service, because I only manage 346,000 acres and the Forest Service manages about 6 billion. I don't know what the number is, but it's a lot, right? So point being is it really wouldn't be very cost effective to have our own firefighting force when we're right next to a Forest Service that has their own. So basically what we're doing is I'm paying them to help us do our BLM. So it's just much more cost effective that way. So I've heard from some counties where we had big fires like last year at the Gwen fire and other such folks. So the commissioner's like, how come I never saw a yellow engine? I'm like, well, because I'm paying the green engines and I'm paying the blue engines and I'm paying the red engines. I'll pay them all. I mean, I just reimburse them for what they're doing. I do have engines. I do have staff, right? I mean, it's just you're not going to see them every day. That's the strange piece. But I can assure you, it's the way this organization is integrated. Is I have a FMO that I'm paying half of that's actually a Forest Service employee. Then I have an AFMO, Assistant Fire Managing Officer, that I'm paying completely for. And then you can see how it keeps going back and forth. So all through the organization, they're paying for some pieces, I'm paying for some pieces, and we use it as that large conglomerate. Another thing that I think is important for people to understand is I know Governor Little just signed a new bill into the Idaho that basically he can have state or private firefighters fight fire on. We already do that. Okay, so I think you're probably familiar with the master agreement, right? And what the master agreement says is whoever that closest force is, they're going to fight that fire. I don't care if it's on me. I encourage it. If there's a fire and it's at a critical place and the state is the closest, IDL is the closest resource, we absolutely have that. Where I think he's trying to get to, and this is a complex part of fire. I'd have to have a 1-hour conversation with you, but what do we do when almost all of our forces are taken up by other fires and you get that one start that you don't want it there, or it's far away, or it's in not a good spot? How do we take that on? Because Ray and I had triage basically last year where we had 18 starts and I don't have 18 engines, so I'm taking the stuff that would impact cities, public safety, that sort of thing. That's what we look at first. Where is the wind going to be coming from? Where are the places where I'd be most concerned? And that's where we'll send our forces first. So there we had a fire up by the grandmothers. We had another fire way up east of Avery. Those are our lowest priorities. And I'm sorry, that's sometimes the way that has to go, right? Now, once we put out these other fires, do we send folks to? Of course, right? But that's the gambit we all play. And we have to play that all the time, trying to figure out, okay, what is the impact? Where are our biggest concerns, our biggest threats? Our infrastructure if it's a power line, that could be a big thing too, right? I mean, something that knocks out a cell tower to the city, it's a big thing, right? So those are the things that we'll look at and consider as how we are going to set our firefighters. Where are we going to try to do that? And there's always a chance that we're going to get people in from other areas. And if it becomes severe enough, that's where we start getting those heavy aircraft, that sort of thing. So we play all those games But I got to tell you, at the end of the day, we're all rolling dice. I hate to say it that way, but it is kind of that way because I don't know what the wind brings the next day. I don't know how hot and how windy. I mean, we have predictions, but they're only right 50% of the time.
And that's good for the public to know that that you know, it's the public first, the public safety, and then,
Absolutely.
you know, because if they see something burning,
Yep.
that's a good,
And my firefighter
Prioritize.
safety too. That's another thing that I really take, because there are some places
Yeah.
we don't want to send people. It's too. I'm going to have to wait for it to get to somewhere where we can probably do more good
Mm-hmm.
and be a little bit more effective with what we have. So those are all some of the considerations we have when we get into those sorts of situations. So, and there was quite a few of them up this way, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, the end of July we had those lightning strikes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then you start going through your prioritizing, you know, highest value. But they do have, like, it'll be interesting because, like, down in southern Idaho, like south of Mountain Home and out towards Twin Falls and Jarbidge Desert, they had, for like the last 10 years, formed a lot of private individuals that are out there with tractor plows, engines, sometimes they'll have engines. And we were running into that where they would go out there and try to fight the fire, and we're coming in and you're trying to do a burnout operation. You got people, or they're doing a burnout, we got people in the way. So they went through and they organized, and I think they're still organized now, where they came in and we just identified, they got, you know, here's your resource order number. They had, you could dispatch, tractor plow, and so they had radios. And so then it kind of worked because we had them in our dispatch. They had them like when an incident commander or, you know, with a Type 3 IC was out there, they were in the system now where you could communicate. And so they've done a good job. I don't know if maybe he's trying to expand that more. But.
Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit up in this country, but it doesn't work here. But it does work in like in Idaho County and that sort of, because they have the ability, because they have their own like plows, they have their own discs, that sort of thing. So they can
And
be
it's flat
super,
land.
right. They can be super effective, but I don't think you could disc this country.
See, they used to a long time ago when they were logging.
Yeah.
The loggers, you know, they would be you know, whoever was out in the hills would take off, but we don't have that right now.
I think and the biggest thing is just that comm, that communication, is that people are in the system and not operating on their own when there's a bigger, you know, planet plane. It's like, okay, hold off. We've got somebody, you know, in the drop zone, or we have somebody now that's putting fire on the ground, and we've got people close to there. So that was the big thing, is down south is getting that commo and training, and they came in and would go through the fire refreshers and whatnot. So it's a lot of coordination. So
Okay. You guys have any other questions?
Appreciate your
Yeah,
time.
thank you.
You have
Yeah.
about 2 minutes worth of questions?
A question for Mr. Brandt. Are you at liberty to say how many LEOs are full-time, part-time in the Northern 5-year jurisdiction? Is it getting any better?
So I can speak for the BLM. It would be me and Greg right now. The guy I just hired needs to go to training and get all that done, and then he'll be fully operational. And that'd be for basically everything from New Meadows up to Canada for the BLM. We have
Are you okay?
We have neighboring officers over in Washington if there was a problem and we needed to bring them over. Some in Montana, and I could always bring people up from Boise if there was some emergency. I don't know the exact number on Forest Service. I will tell you they're supposed to be around 800 special agents and law enforcement officers for the country, and they're around like 340, 350 right now. So they're in kind of a staffing crisis in their law enforcement program. And I honestly don't know, because of the turnover that they've had around Coeur d'Alene. I don't know how many officers they have around here.
They've been running at 2 or 3, just
Yeah.
like you guys.
I mean, I know there's several. I don't know exactly how many, but it's nationwide. It is just an issue where there's just not enough for the amount of land that we cover, and that's just how it is, and it's probably not going to get much better. So,
As far as the Bureau goes, though, having 3 law enforcement for this district, that's pretty good.
it's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
I can speak for Region 2 and BLM, that's Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and Alaska. We just had our annual in-service in Boise, and there was about 50 there. So there's 50 for all of those BLM lands, for all of those states. There's probably 6 in Alaska, and there's a lot of land in Alaska. So we're just spread out, and that's the way it is. But if there is an issue, that's why you have this. If I can't make it, I'll most likely be sending Greg, because this is his area, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, Mr. Pease has been really good about when we let him know that there's an organized activity coming, that he can decide whether to pull you to wherever. It's been really nice.
Yeah.
When you have prescribed burns in our area, they just kind of occur, and DEQ's AQI report will say we're going to have some bad air quality. But I was wondering if you could please, one of you, the DEQ or BLM Forest Service, put in the paper that we're going to do prescribed burns in these areas, so that some of us like me don't freak out.
So here's what we do, is we send a news release to the papers all the time. We're required to. They choose not to post it, though. That's not our, I can't force them to put it in the paper. I mean, I could pay them to put it in the paper, but a lot of times we're not able to do even that. So we make it available to the local newspaper. We put it on our website. We try to do what we can, but that's where that stands. And there is a communication that happens with the counties. Everybody's notified at that point. We try to do as much as we can. If there are specific groups that want to be notified, we can add that to a list. So if you have a group of, there's 30, 40 interested citizens, we can certainly add that to the group.
Okay.
So,
A couple of years ago, NACO received and adopted a resolution for the Forest Service to actually do NEPA on wildland fire. It's one thing they've never done before. And so there's supposed to be some lobbyists from NACO counties to bring the Forest Service to something to the table, do the environmental analysis, etc., for ESAs and all that they've never done, water, air, and get away from the initial attack, or get towards that, because right now it's all let it burn. Chief Moore was let it burn, and now it needs to have alternatives where you can do initial attack and have that fire out quicker, instead of using it as a prescribed burn.
and I would just say that it depends on where it's at. Like we just discussed a little bit ago, there are some fires I can jump on pretty quick, and it also depends on what are the state of the rest of the federal resources, that sort of thing. I mean, if we're being pressed in all these states, and once we hit planning level 3, and this is something that shocks a lot of folks, planning level, we have 5 planning levels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5 being the highest. Once we hit 3, all your federal resources are out. There's none left. So most times when we have big fires like that, it's 4 and 5, and that's to do with not only the amount of resources that are out, but what are conditions around the country, that sort of thing. I mean, how many big fires are out and about, that kind of thing. So we do our best with that to try to get as many resources, but a lot of times, like we just talked about, it's going to be, where can we let that fire go? Because, let's just do a real scenario. I had a fire in Chalice that I was fighting, right? Okay, it's Chalice, between Chalice and Salmon. How many houses do you think when? Not very many, right? However, there were 2 fires that started out of Provo and Salt Lake. So what do you think happened to all my resources? They're gone. That is part of the game we have to play. Now, could there be a NEPA part of this? I would tell you this, is we do NEPA. We do consultation. It's emergency consultation with the DEQ and the Fish and Wildlife Service in the middle of all those fires, because we are concerned about those endangered species, that sort of thing. And we have discussions about how do we do that. Now, do we do a full-blown NEPA? No, we don't, because we generally don't have time, and we generally don't know where that fire is going to go day to day. It could move here, move there, that sort of thing. So we try to draw big boxes around and say, okay, what is everything in this area? What are all the things we're concerned about? And that's part of our process of how do we identify, how does the Bureau identify, how does the Forest Service identify? And we had discussions with the counties at that time. What's in this box that you would be really worried about? And let's talk about that right now, and let's try to prioritize it. So we do that. We don't put it in a NEPA document. There is, what's the name of that document, Ray? Where we do the risk analysis on all those pieces.
Yeah, it's that new. We met last year, met with a lot of the different cities and went through an exercise where you go through and basically
Yeah, everybody
identify.
because I don't know
Yes.
what viaducts are, that sort of thing. I mean, so I don't want to block that up because obviously that's your fresh water, and I don't want to impact that, right? So that might be one of our highest priorities because it's going to affect thousands of people, right? Whereas if it maybe knocks out a cell tower,
Yeah.
we'll be okay. It'll get rebuilt at some point, or maybe it's already well protected, you know, because a lot of times they'll do fire protection on those, that sort of thing. So I know that was a roundabout way. Yeah, did I get it? Close? Okay.
All right. Well, anything further? Well, I appreciate you guys coming up, and really
Thank you.
thank you.